This is our Bible lesson for April 28th, Tuesday. And as we finish up this chapter, Will God Meet All My Needs? We're going to talk about worldview. And we always have a section that focuses on worldview at the end of our chapter. And so I'm going to go over this worldview lesson with you, and then I will give you the assignment to do in your journal today. Who put the world in your worldview? Some worldviews hold that nature or the physical earth and the universe is all that exists and that there is no God. So some people's worldview believes that. Other worldviews insist that nature is God and God is nature. Let's take a closer look at these different worldviews. Some worldviews do not include beliefs about God except the belief that God does not exist. These worldviews are called atheistic worldviews. If you look carefully at the word atheistic or atheism, you will see the root word theistic and theism. If you remember, you've already learned that theos means God. Adding a letter A changes the meaning of a word, which means without or not. So we learned about theistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, right? They all believe in a God, right? So they're theistic. Well, when I add an A to the beginning of theistic, it means without or not. So if theistic means God, right, or belief in God, then atheistic means without God or not God. So if someone is atheistic or an atheist, they don't believe that there is a God. Okay, so this atheism is the belief that God does not exist. A worldview that holds that nature or the physical earth and universe is all that exists and that there is no God is sometimes called naturalism or materialism. Each of these has some similar and some different beliefs about God, the universe, people, truth, right, and wrong. You can see the root word nature in the word naturalism. So we have atheism and now we have naturalism, and we see the word nature in naturalism. This worldview holds that only things that can be seen or proven to exist in nature are real. You can see the root word material in the word materialism. This worldview is very similar to naturalism. It holds that only material or physical things are real. Because we cannot touch or see God or conduct a laboratory experiment to prove that He exists, people who hold a naturalistic or materialistic worldview are usually atheist. The naturalistic worldview, or naturalism, is based only on what we can discover and understand with our minds and our senses. It does not accept the belief that God exists and reveals or speaks truth to people about the world. People with a naturalistic worldview believe that the truth about what exists can be known only through science. They believe that science proves the natural or material world is all there is, and that's all there ever will be. Okay, so those are atheistic worldviews. And now we're going to talk about the worldview that believes that God is nature and that nature is God. Some worldviews hold that there is no difference between God and the things that exist in nature. Of course, we don't believe that as Christians. These worldviews do not believe that God is a personal being like we do. In these worldviews, God is thought to be an impersonal force or spiritual energy. People who hold these worldviews believe that everything that exists is part of this impersonal, spiritual, or energy force, which they may call God. In other words, they believe the earth is God, I am God, you are God. Everything is part of this one impersonal God force. These worldviews are called by many names, but perhaps the most familiar include New Age and spiritualism. The religions of Hinduism and Buddhism also include the belief that God is everything and everything is God. The word pantheism is sometimes used when referring to New Age worldview. The prefix pan means all. In theism, you heard God, so all God. Pantheism is a worldview that believes all things are God, and this includes you and rocks and trees and everything in the universe. The name New Age may sound at first like a strange one for this mystical worldview that believes everything is God and that God is everything. But people who hold this worldview believe that New Age, or time of peace and harmony on earth, will begin When enough people come to understand that everything that exists is part of one spiritual or energy force called God, there is nothing new about New Age. This includes the beliefs held by people from earliest history. The New Age beliefs about God, the universe, people, truth, and right and wrong are not based on special revelation from God. Many of this worldview's beliefs are based on an ancient writing of philosophers and magicians. Some are based on the writings of people called astrologers, who believe they can understand the truth about the world by studying the position and movement of planets and stars. Other beliefs of New Age worldview are based on human imagination and superstition. So, in your journal today, you're going to be write a passage, which is Romans 1:20. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. Now you're going to write that verse. It's Romans 1:20. Okay? And you have a Bible, so you can look that up. Now answer these questions. How do we see God's invisible qualities in the world? What can we know for sure about God from the things we see in creation? Okay, so you will find that journal on page 173 so that you can reread those directions and reread those questions. Not a tiny little answer, okay? A sentence is not okay for writing a passage and answering 2 questions completely. Okay, so make sure you're being very thorough and thoughtful in your answers.